Hi, it's Sheila Guffey here with Creative Aging. Today we are going to do some watercolor painting and we're going to learn how to do sunsets by doing a wash, which means we're going to use a lot more water versus paint so that we get a lot of soft blending, and that's going to give you a nice sunset. And I'm also going to show you how to lift color by using a paper towel. And so these techniques that we learned today are going to be really helpful in a lot of exercises and projects that we're going to be doing in the next couple weeks with watercolor. And so I hope you have fun with this, and please, if you would like to change the colors, if you have a sunset in mind, say you've been somewhere and you have the most beautiful sunset you've ever seen on vacation, it's a good memory, and you want to recreate that, go ahead and change the colors, and you can do whatever you'd like using this technique. So here it's just a little happy beach scene. I bet we all wish we were at the beach today. I know I do. It's freezing out in Oklahoma City today. So here are these are just a couple, and I'll show you step by step, and I'm going to even change the colors, and I'm going to change how I'd like it to go so you can see it better. So first step is take your watercolor paper and figure out if you want it to be horizontal or vertical. So it's up to you. And I'm going to show you my favorite watercolor paper that's affordable. This brand is pretty amazing. I've tried a whole bunch of brands, and I feel like at the price point, this is my favorite. The watercolor paper doesn't shed as much as some of the other ones, and so I think this one is really good, and I never have any problems with it. And I like this set. It's limited colors, but it's great because you can see them. So, all right. I'm going to use a big brush to start, and then later I'm going to bring in a smaller brush. Okay? And just a reminder, I know most of you have probably done watercolor with me before, but always wash your brush in between colors. And especially if you get to some of the darker colors, you might need to switch out your water. So you do not want your colors to get muddy looking, and so try to keep some clean water, and especially if you're using blacks or purples or browns, they can dirty the water really fast. So I have a couple cups here, so I won't have to get up and get new water. I'm pretty well prepared, and then I have my paper towel here with me. And then also another reminder, if you are ever painting with watercolor and your paper starts to look like flaky, that means it needs a break. So if you start seeing your paper shed, you're doing too much movement with your brush, or you have too much water and it just needs a break. So move on to another section and let it dry. Don't continue, because you're eventually going to have a hole in your paper if you continue. So your paper will talk to you in watercolor painting. Okay, so I'm going to wash my brush, and we're going to start with blue, and I'm going to get a lot of water, and I like to put water in the blue to start, because some of these paints, if they haven't been used for a while, this is a newer set, so it really is dry. So I like to put a lot of water, and with this project especially, we are going to use more water, like I said. We're going to do a wash, and so we want these colors to be really wet so that they're easier to blend, and that's going to make softer lines. So let's start at the top, and we're going to work our way down. We're going to break this landscape up in rule of thirds, which means 1/3 of your page will be cut, and so I'll probably go to almost the bottom. So now I want you to take your brush, your big brush, and go, and we're not going to use much movement because we're going to make it really soft. Now, I'll show you later if you want it to look like a windy sky or lots of clouds, or if you want to change the look, we'll move the brush more. But right now, we're going to just focus on the blending, so I'm going to do straight across. And like I said, you do need a lot of water, so see, I'm re-dipping quite a bit. So, see how I'm going straight down, and I'm just moving that down. And as you go down, it's going to start fading, but I don't want it to fade quite yet. So I'm going to add more water and more blue. I'm going to drag it on down. And at this point, I'm just going to add a little water right here. Okay, because I want it to be really faded and go to a light blue. All right, so see if I go up, I'm just making it more soft. And if you get more color in one spot, you can just move it around. So at this point, it's all still really wet, as you can see the paper. And it will curl, it'll buckle a little bit on you, which is okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get everything in the picture. But I'm pretty sure you know there's a blue right over there. All right, now I'm gonna switch to a red. And I want to not start right under the blue. I'm just gonna go a little bit further down, okay? So get some of the red. And of course, like I said, you can change these colors. If you wanted to use pink instead or purple, that'd be fine. These colors are all gonna blend nicely into the blue. That's the only thing you have to be aware of is your color blending. You don't want a green sky, so you don't want to mix your blue and yellow together. So just when you're doing this, if you want to switch the colors, just think of how they're gonna blend together and if they're gonna clash. So see how I'm gonna go about right here, and I'll start going straight across with my red. And I'm going to go up this time. All right, I'm going to keep the same motion, and I'm going to take more water. Okay, so now I'm just painting with water because I want to blend these together. So I'm going to move the red into the blue, and I'm going to move the blue into the red. So I'm just going back and forth, going up and down, because I don't want it to be stripes. You don't want the sky to look stripy. So you're kind of just going up and down until they start blending into each other, and you're going to see a little bit of purple. All right? Okay, does that hopefully make sense? So, now this is very red. At this point, I think I'm going to add some orange in there. All right? So, and I don't like how this is looking, so I'm going to fix this right here. So see how that, you can see a heavy stripe? I'm going to use a little water, and I'm going to tone that down. So I'm just going to use water to soften that to where it doesn't look like a stripe anymore, and it's just going to be blended better. So just a little bit of water took that away. And at this point, I want to make some orange. So let's switch to yellow. And we're going to add yellow about right here, and then we're going to bring the yellow up the same way we just did. We're going to bring the yellow up into this red, and we're going to turn that into a little bit of an orange. And make sure you have clean water when you get into this yellow. The yellow can get muddy and weird looking really fast. You especially don't want that in a sunset. So I'm going to switch to my clean water. Make sure it's really clean. All right, so here's my yellow. So this is, I haven't put any water in that, so I want to make sure that there's a lot of water. Since this is a new set, it's extra dry. Remember, more water than paint on this project. Okay, so that's probably good right there. So the same thing, don't start right at the red. I would go down a little bit. And just back and forth. Go all the way straight, back and forth. gonna get some more yellow. I want it to be a little brighter right here in between the two. And I'm gonna keep going up, and I'm gonna keep going down. All right, let's look at it. So I think I want to add a little bit of light orange in between these. You could also do pink. I just want to make it really colorful. Plus, this is really good practice. This is a good way to learn how to use watercolors. I know a lot of people are very intimidated because they're used to acrylic painting, and watercolor is totally different. You have to just go with it, and there will be watermarks, and everything you do with watercolor and the brush you can see. So a lot of people are frustrated. They get frustrated easily with watercolor painting. So I think this kind of thing will really help understand how to use the brush, how to use the water, and make it work for your favor, because a lot of people want to use no water and they want to make it look like acrylic or oil painting, and then they try so hard to get this dark, and then it looks weird, and it looks like you can just see the streaks, and you don't want that. The point of watercolor is to be able to see the water and how it's moving with the paint. Okay, so I got a little orange. We're gonna put it right in between. Okay, I'm gonna soften this just a little bit. And this is where I'm gonna add more yellow in a minute too. So I'm gonna go back to my yellow. And now I'll mix that with the orange. And keep going down, and we'll fade it to where it's almost nothing down there. Okay. So if I want this to be the start of my ocean, then this is where I need to switch and do the same colors from the top. So we're gonna just do sky and water, because that's an easy way to start. And then next time we'll probably do more of a landscape, kind of a hill or mountain scene. So right here, we can bring these same colors and add a little bit of red, and then go blue at the very bottom. So let's start with the blue, and let's go to the opposite direction and start with the blue at the very bottom, just how we did the top. Let me move this up. And I'm going to have more blue in the water and then just a little bit of the sunset reflection. So this is going to be kind of light. And then right here, we'll add a little bit of that red again. Not a lot. I already have the water in there, so I'm not adding too much more water. So right at the edge of that yellow, I'm going to go my red, and then I'm going to bring it down just the same way. Bring it into the blue and drag them up and down into each other. So drag the blue into the red and the red into the blue, and then it's going to create a nice soft blend. So see that? And now let's make this look more like water, and we're going to use our brush and just turn it the opposite way. So see how it's buckling a little bit? That's normal, especially with a wash. It's very normal. So it happens. I'm trying not to get my fingers in the way, so I'm going to leave it there for a minute. So now let's just paint with water for a little bit, because we've got good color. And you can, so instead of using the brush this way, we're going to turn it, okay? And we're going to go just choppy back and forth to make it look like water. So small strokes. just gives it a little bit more texture to where it doesn't look like an extension of the sky. You want it to look like water. So now I'm not using color right now. I'm using just water. We can add color later, but right now let's just leave the color as is, and then this is just taking away a little bit of color to give it a reflection. We're gonna do more of this with a paper towel in just a minute. All right, let me hold this up. So it's already starting to look a little bit more like water. And at this point, you can add more color if you wanted. We could add even purple we could do a little purple at the bottom edges or a little of the darker blue. Let's do a little purple. So here's my purple. Remember, purple gets dark really fast, so I do not want too much of this purple. I'm just gonna barely dab the brush. And I might even test this on my paper towel just to make sure it's not too dark. Actually, I think that's gonna be fine. So let's just play. At this point, I'm also just playing with colors to see what I like and what I don't like. This, you know, it's evening, so you could have some purple in the water and sky. So let's just do a little bit at the bottom. So I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'm gonna use the other side of the brush, and I'm gonna drag it and keep moving it, because when you're moving it, this water is gonna keep blending into the other colors. That way it will be nice and gradual and soft. Now obviously you don't want to do this with every kind of landscape. Sometimes you want hard edges, you don't want it to be so soft, but we're doing a really pretty sunset, peaceful sunset for our stressful day. Okay. Okay, this is looking better. And I'm even bringing a little bit of the purple. I'm just continuing up. So let's figure out, let's get a sun in there. So we're gonna figure out where we want a sun and where we want some clouds. I'm thinking maybe a sun, you know, in one of the sides might be nice, right in between the yellow and the orange. And for the sun, we're gonna switch brushes. We're gonna use a smaller brush. Any kind of size will do. You know, I have all these brushes would be fine, but I like this one with a point. So it just depends on what you have at home, but anything that's smaller is gonna be fine. You can make it work. Remember, this is just to learn techniques and to prepare for other projects. This is very basic, but it's good info, and hopefully it will help you really even think about what colors mix well into each other. So for this part, we really need the cleanest water. So use very, very clean water. Get your paper towel ready. And this is how you lift. So if you want to get white, you cannot paint white with watercolor. So you have to show the paper. The paper will be the white. So for the sun, we want it to be light. So we can't just paint it in. We have to lift color. So we're gonna use water and our brush and a paper towel. So wherever you want the sun, say I want it right here. I'm going to paint a circle, all right? And really use your brush, move it around, because we're lifting the paint, so you kind of need to get it wet, and some of this paint is soaked into the paper, so you need to almost massage that water into it. And you might have to do this a few times. So now paper towel, and I like to wad my paper towel up so I have more control over, you know, how much I'm gonna use, and just move it around, and wherever you put water, it will lift color. Okay? So that's how you're going to get a sun, and we're also going to do the same technique with any reflections that we want to do. So we'll do some reflections right under the sun, and if we want, we can also do some clouds. And so the clouds are fun because, you know, you can use all edges of this and make clouds and move it around. So this is where you get to play and practice this technique. And please, you know, feel free to do your own thing. If you don't want clouds, or if you do, this is where you can really play and practice. It's the only way you get better, practice. Just playing and figuring it out. So, getting my water, getting my brush cleaned again. I'm gonna go down and do the same thing. So underneath this sun, I'm just gonna add some reflections. All right, so I'm taking my brush and I'm pretending like this is a pencil, and I'm drawing into the, you know, into the paint with just water. And now let's lift it, and see how I moved my paper towel to where it kind of makes the shape that I want to lift? That's just my preference. You can do it however you want. Sometimes it's a little more dry. Since I'm trying to explain things, I'm working probably pretty slow. So let me do that again. So that part had dried quite a bit. So we're just gonna focus on right here. We're gonna do a lot of water right here. Back and forth, you wanna move it around so that you get some of that color lifted. Then dab it. And we're gonna do it again down in the blue. And it is very subtle. Okay. Okay. So, hopefully you can see the difference. All of these things are little subtle touches, but just those little things make a big difference in the final product. All right, so now I might even go in and you can add a little more color around to exaggerate that reflection. You can use your small brush now. So I could even choose a new color. Let's try this. This is right in between purple and blue, so it's pretty. I think it'd work well. Use a lot of water though. You don't want these colors to get too dark now that everything's blended in really well. So I'm just gonna go and really kind of make those reflections stand out a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing over to the other side. Just a little bit of color right over here. See how dark that is right there? You've got to move it around. So it will start out dark, but if you keep moving it, it'll blend in. So what happens? If things get too dark also, you know how to do your paper towel and just dab that away. So that paper towel is a good little eraser. All right. Let's do something else with this sky. I think we definitely need some clouds. So let's take our small brush, since you can have more control with it and you can figure out exactly what you want to lift. And let's just take some clouds out anywhere really. Let's start right in here. So now is when I'm using my paintbrush in a different way. I'm using circles because it depends on what kind of clouds you want, you know, but also these circles are kind of getting deeper into the paper, so when we lift it, we'll be able to lift a little bit more. Sometimes the purple and red can be stubborn, so it may not lift to totally white, but it should give you a look of clouds. Let's do the same thing right here. We'll go into the red. Make sure you're using clean edges of your paper towel, because if you use the same part of your paper towel every time, you might blend colors you didn't want to blend. Because I just took away some purple and I may not want more purple down here, so just be mindful of what edges of your paper towel you're going to use. And you know, I might even use more purple up here to bring out this cloud. So this contrast is very uninteresting to me right now. And so at this point, I want something darker. It just looks kind of sad and muddy. And so this is where you can kind of move it around, take it, look at it, decide to add color, take more away. If you don't like how red this got, you could switch it to orange. In this first one, I did switch and I just used orange. And then see in the highlights down there, I took a lot more away. So that was doing the same process over and over, using a lot of water and moving it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, dabbing it. Then doing the same thing again, back and forth, lots of clean water and dabbing it away. So this just took a lot more time. I don't want to spend too much time on our video, but so let me just show you on this one. It was the same process. Some of the colors are a little different, and but you can see I took the sun out from that's a little bit of red, a little bit of orange, and then the yellow, same way, blended back and forth. The clouds, I used this small brush, and at the end I went in with purple, and I just lightly made some clouds. So I took some of the clouds away with my paper towel. So you can see up here, I dotted and I moved some of the blue that I did and I dotted it, made some of it light and some of it dark. Then I went in and exaggerated some of the clouds that came out. So a lot of it is just whenever you're using that paper towel and moving the color around, you might all of a sudden see a cloud that looks good. So you may not have an exact vision when you start this project, which is good because that means you're really going to play and you're going to learn. And you can just kind of move colors around and blend them and lift and re-add them. You can always lift. So say right here, you lifted too much. Go in and add more yellow, which actually is what I did. So see, the sun it disappeared too much. So I had to add a little bit more orange down here to bring it back out. And I added so much orange that I made this whole part a lot bright orange. So some of the mistakes can be really good mistakes. But if you don't like it, then just dab it. And but remember, when you're dabbing, some people, I've seen so many people that they rub it, okay? You do not want to rub it. That's going to tear your paper. It's going to mess your paint up. It's going to make it scratchy, and it might tear a hole in the paper, and it's really hard to cover that up. Even if it's just the start of paper shedding and there's no hole, even painting on top of that is so rough and it won't look soft anymore. So remember when you're lifting your paint, you want to use the clean part of your paper towel and dot it. You're dabbing it, okay? You are not rubbing, you're dabbing it. You've got to be gentle with this paper. This is good quality paper. Watercolor supplies aren't the cheapest, so you want to take good care of it. Okay, so remember to dab, lift it away. So see how this one, I added a lot more purples and a lot more darks at the bottom. So at the end, you know, if you wanted to add more darks like I did at the sky, that's where you would go in and, you know, maybe get some purples. Let's just add a little purple, see if we can make this more interesting up here. And I'm still using this small brush. I might switch to my bigger one in a minute. I think I will. So see, you can still add things even later. So I'm doing the same thing, but I'm adding purple at the top. If you decide you want to change your colors at the end, you don't like them, you can paint on top of other colors. Just make sure the colors will mix well together. So I'm adding purple just to see if that looks a little better. Go up and down. Totally changes the look. So that purple definitely makes a difference. So here's one that is the same exact style, but that's a lot of purple and a lot of orange. Exact same technique. You can see the water looks the same. Using the big brush back and forth, then switching which way the brush goes. So now that you've seen me do it, then you can probably look at this one and see how I use my brush. And so I used the big brush on both the bottom and the top for the background. And down here, I switched the orientation of my brush. Okay, and that's how it kind of got these. See, you can see right there how I switched it and I moved it kind of more choppy to give it a look. So at first I went this way, soft back and forth. Then I switched it and kind of went choppy back and forth to give it, you know, a look of water. Not rocky water, it's pretty still. And then I took away color here. And then this was just a light purple and an orange. Same thing, blended these together. So I started with the purple, went to the orange, and went up and down, up and down. And then I lifted some of the orange, and then I added some yellow. So once that was lifted, I really wanted that to pop, and I added a bright yellow. So it's the same thing, but different colors. All right, so I hope you learned something and can go and enjoy and play with the supplies that we dropped off. We're gonna do, you know, quite a bit of watercolors because, you know, we've got several weeks that we're all gonna be stuck at home, and watercolor is a good thing to learn in our spare time, and it's kind of nice. It's like an escape. So the next time we're gonna do a landscape that will have more of a mountain scene, and it'll have more of a stormy look. So we're gonna practice different things with our brush strokes. So kind of like this, where you're using circles, we're just gonna do that more. All right, so like this one. So if you want to look at close-up pictures of any of these, they're gonna be in the lesson plan. Same with the details and the directions, so please feel free to download that and print it off. And I'll see you next week.